Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Brett McCollum, and I'm here today with Michael Hoang. And today we're going to talk about marketing in 2025. Before we get to it, guys, at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs to 5X their businesses to allow them to build their businesses they've always wanted and live the lives they've always dreamed of. Without further ado, Michael, how are you, man?
Hey, Brett.
Cool. Thanks for being here, man. I'm really excited. We got to know each other a little bit pre-show, and I'm excited about the show, our conversation ahead. I think we're going to be able to bring a lot of value to people listening. Before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of everything, Michael, tell us a little bit about your history, like your backstory. How'd you get into real estate, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I was working, I worked my way up from a blue collar family into a white collar position. So I was doing a 9 to 5 corporate grind. I was traveling Monday through Friday, most weeks, either had to fly or drive every single week. I was only home on weekends and holidays. And
What
after,
industry was that?
that was in telecom,
Okay.
and before that, oil and gas.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. Um, and my wife was in a master's program and just said, you can do whatever you want while I'm in school, but when I'm done, you got to come home. And so what made the most sense to me was real estate.
Wow. Cool. How long ago was that?
That was probably 2018, somewhere
Okay.
around there. Yeah, when that started.
Oil and gas, telecom, that sort of thing. And forgive me, you're in Texas, right?
Yeah, Houston, Texas.
Yeah, I was like, when you said the oil and gas thing, I was like, he's got to be from Texas, right? Yeah.
I gave it away.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, how many corporate grind, you're working the thing, like you're gone a lot. How many hours would you say you're putting into that, give or take, a week?
On paper, 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. But the reality is I still had like office responsibilities while traveling. So
Wow.
you get to a hotel, continue to work in the night, weekly and sometimes daily reports have to be due. You're not really allotted much time for traveling, packing, unpacking. So I really, from the time I left my house to the time I came home, it was work or sleep. So it was 24/7, 5 days a week.
Yeah, that gets
And
exhausting.
weekends if there was an emergency.
Yeah, that gets exhausting, huh? Yeah. So what opened your eyes? You said, you were looking at your options. Like, what kind of opened the eyes to real estate being the thing?
Well, I started watching Bigger Pockets back in the day, the
Oh,
OG
yeah.
podcast. I think a lot of us started there and read Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Yeah.
the Purple Bible, and it just really resonated with me because it felt like something I could do here in Houston. I could have went and found another job. That's always an option. But what happened, I was kind of flirting with the idea of real estate, but then in this job I had, me and my boss reported to his boss. So I was directly interfacing with my 2 layers up with my boss's boss, just to say
Right.
boss 10 more times. And I saw a man in his 60s, balding, writing a desk. He was making a little over $250,000 a year. And before I was really big into real estate, I was doing stocks. I was putting money in my 401k, always funding a Roth IRA every year.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
I was doing that religiously for me and my wife, and I was talking to my boss's boss one day, and I forget what the limit was. They change the limit all the times in Roth IRAs, but let's just say it was like $5,000 or whatever back in the day. I was
Okay.
like, $5,000 a year, let's put it in this thing. And he was like, I just can't get any breathing room to do that right now. And I was like taken back because he's making over $250,000 a year. He'd been in the industry for like 40 years, and then we go to lunch, and he's like complaining about his wife and his kids and his family life, and it just kind of hit me. I'm like, okay, I need to go and listen to this audiobook and watch this podcast. Real estate is definitely the way. Stocks aren't going to get me there. This job isn't going to get me there. Let's look deeper into real estate.
Right. Wow. Okay. So call it 2018. You're kind of make the decision like, this is something I want to do. First, everybody knows their first deal. Everybody has that story. Tell me about your first deal. What happened?
Yeah, so this one's so my first deal technically was a house hack, a house that me and my wife bought, moved into. And house hacking is either you buy a 2 to 4 unit, live in one unit, rent out the others, or you buy a large house and rent out by the bedroom. And we did that in 2018. We didn't have kids. We still don't have kids. God willing, we will have kids soon. We're going to try. But from 2018, we got a house hack. We went in looking for specifically something we could either rent out the units or buy the room. And we were like hoping, like, let's just cover half the mortgage. If half the mortgage, we can save more money and invest more, pay off our cars, and we could like get out of the rat race quicker. And through the miracle of real estate, it wasn't half our mortgage. It was our whole mortgage that was covered by house hacking. And so I was like, I guess my bills have been paid since 2018, but I didn't consider it really because I wasn't, yes, the house is appreciating, the debt's being paid down, but I didn't consider it like cash flowing assets. I wasn't really grateful for the house hack at the time. And then I kind of regret what I did. And so I want to like tell new people this. For like nearly 3 years, I didn't do anything. I just kind of rested on my laurels.
Yeah.
Of like, I don't have enough money. I don't know what I'm doing. I thought money was the issue. Experience was the issue. And then when I finally started doing direct to seller marketing, I started with direct mail. And when I did my first deal, I thought, okay, worst case scenario, I'm just going to wholesale this thing. Maybe one day I could flip a house. And then if I earned enough money, maybe I could keep a rental property here or there. So the exit strategy I went into was always, let's just wholesale it. If it's got equity and if other people find value in it, let's just wholesale it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a deal, and I was talking to everyone in my network. And so I tell people, your network is very important, because I would have probably wholesaled that thing and made 20 grand if I had not had a network. And so I was talking to somebody, and they're like, hey, have you talked to a lender? Like you can maybe. I was like, oh, you mean like a hard money loan so I can flip it? He's like, maybe, but why don't you see if you can hold this thing as a rental? And I'm thinking, I don't really have a lot of money. I don't know if that'll work. And I found out when someone introduced me to a private lender, and that private lender introduced me to like a mortgage lender, like a conventional home lender.
Mm-hmm.
And we did some paperwork with them, and the private lender was like, whatever you want to do with it, I'll give you a loan on this. This is a great zip code, great property, great deal. But talk to this other conventional lender. And because we had house hacked, I didn't know this at the time, but because we had house hacked and because we had reported the rental income on our tax returns, which a lot of people don't do that. They just put the money in their pocket. We had like a DTI, a debt to income ratio of almost zero. Because our cars were paid off and we were making cash flow, or we were wiping out the debt of the house hack. And so when I talked to the conventional lender, I was like,
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
ain't no way this is going to happen. I had hope that I could now maybe flip it because a private lender wanted to fund me. And when the lender called me back, the conventional lender called me back, and he was like, "Hey, you can keep this thing cash flows." I was like, "Really? Like I can keep this thing?"
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Well, not only that, I think you can do 10 if the next deal looks like this deal, you can probably do 10 of these things." And I'm like, "No way." I follow podcasters and YouTubers who like wholesaled for years and then flipped for years and then they started keeping rental properties. There's no way that's possible because I wasn't sitting on millions of dollars. I didn't come from a rich family. And I was just thinking, let's wholesale to create cash to keep stacking our. So I
Yep.
went from like a $20,000 wholesale fee was my first thought to like maybe I could flip this thing for 40 or 50 grand. I'm going to keep it as a rental. It had like 55,000 in equity at the time that I refied out of the private money. And then like within 3 or 4 years, I put a renter in there. I take a tenant for a few years. I get the tenant out and I sell it, and it was like 114 or
Wow.
117,000. I've got the check somewhere. I forget what it was, but it was over six figures that I made in just 3 or 4 years on a deal that I first thought, oh, let me just make 20 grand on this real quick. There's
Right.
no way I can hold it. So since then, I like to tell everybody like whatever you're thinking in your mind, like a lot of it is your own false belief holding you back, and you've got to get a network. You've got to talk to people. You got to talk to mentors, lenders, and get out there because what you think is possible may not be what's actually possible.
True. Very true. Man, that's super powerful. I mean, yeah, I know it's easy sometimes to stare down and look at the quick cash grab, and you had the foresight to go, you know what, like, man, if this is right, like I might be able to, and then you proved it out over, a couple of years. So that's really cool. So you got in, you house hacked. How long were you house hacking for that first one?
So total time was about 4 years,
Okay.
and in that we didn't intend to stop. But what happened was the house that I'm in right now also came from direct mail, and it was going to be a rental property. And I was doing the math on it, and my private lender is really cool, and we had done a couple deals together. And I was like, "Hey, I asked my wife, are you ready to not have roommates anymore? Because I think we can move into this house, rent out the previous house to a long-term tenant, and it's a wash. We're going to be now living in a house for free by ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
um, and a nicer house in a nicer area." And so she was like, "Okay, let's do it." So I called the private lender and I'm like, "Hey, I signed some documents with you that said this was an investment property, that I'm not going to occupy it, but I kind of want to occupy it. Is there anything we can do?" And he's like, "I know you. Everything's fine. Get me the pre-approval. You guys do whatever. I just, so I just want listeners to know you can't just change the purpose if you're in a hard money loan or
Right.
private
For
loan."
sure.
But I had that relationship with my guy, and so we intended to just keep house hacking until we had children, but we just ended up in a house on our own. And I like to throw this little bit in there, Brett, that it was kind of funny when I was house hacking because I was living in an older, rougher part of town,
Mm-hmm.
living for free, and we had like 10-year-old paid off cars, which we still have those cars today. And I was driving to the suburbs to a nicer part of Houston to collect rent or to deal with
Isn't that
problems.
funny? Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of
and
opposite. Yeah.
my renters drove BMWs. They had like bad credit and not a lot of savings and reserves, but they had high income and they wanted to live in a nice part of town. And I was like turning on the media and they're like, "Oh, these terrible landlords, they're ruining the economy, they're ruining housing." And I'm
Yeah.
like, I live in a house built in the 70s and I drive to a house built in 2004 in a safe area. Like there's crime not far from me and I'm driving an old car and I'm the landlord. So that kind of broke my brain in understanding what money, what wealth, and what security is
Yep.
because we all want to get the nice house and the nice car in the suburbs first and then figure out financial freedom. I was fortunate enough that we kind of did it the other way around. And
Opposite way.
yeah.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
No, that's super powerful too. You know, I want to rewind for the listeners just real fast to kind of go back and hear that again. It's like, I think you said you kind of broke the traditional thought pattern of how you do things. And I think the more I talk to people, the more I learn, the more I grow. I realize that the way that everybody else does stuff, it's probably not. I mean, there's some things that's true, like you should follow age-old, tradition, things that are valuable. But like as far as like work the job 9 to 5, get the check, get into more debt, and then eventually, maybe, hopefully, when you're 75 and you're retired, maybe you're paying things off, And you went the exact opposite where I was like, I'm going to take the older cars, take the older house, I'm going to take this and work and let real estate do its thing over time and allow me to, and now there you are, you're living in a nicer area, nicer neighborhood, in a house that's paid for you, which is really fantastic, man. That's super cool. You touched on it really ever so briefly, and it's what we kind of introduced on the, when I introduced you. You said you went to direct to seller marketing. And I want to spend some time talking about marketing a little bit, Michael. 2025, those of us that have been in the industry a while, like we know that marketing, every 5 seconds, it seems like it's, especially now with, technology, different things, like it just pick a channel, like it's changing all the time. Tell me about your experience, what you're seeing today. Let's kind of go a little bit higher level on some marketing.
Sure. So when I started, direct mail was hitting, but everything's a cycle, right? And so I did some text blasting, some cold calling. I did bandit signs. And what's really hitting now is PPL, pay per lead. That's me and a lot of people in my network. They're having a lot of success with PPL. And part of it was like, I think 5 or 7 years ago, we would have never dreamed of like outsourcing this stuff. But with changes in regulation with cold calling and texting and staying compliant, PPL providers like provide you with all that compliance. They get all the right forms signed, they document. And so you're really like siloing your risk when you buy a PPL lead.
So explain to explain what PPL. Tell me what, like, pay per lead. What is a PPL lead typically?
Yeah, it's really simple. You swipe your credit card and the phone rings.
So how are they sourcing these leads? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so it depends on the provider you're working with, but they're doing digital marketing on YouTube or Meta ads, Facebook, Instagram. They might be having ads on websites. Whatever marketing channel they're choosing, they're getting in the face of the people who are most likely to sell today. Whereas in the past, when I was cold calling or sending direct mail, I was just kind of putting myself out there, putting mini hooks in the water, hoping to catch one. Instead, what a PPL provider does is they put the fish on the hook, and then pass you the pole, and then you reel it in. And so I've seen that those costs and those compliant, like PPL just works so great. And some of them have some real secret sauce. Like I understand what they're doing, but some of them have some nice little honey holes where they go fishing and they don't want to talk about it. Right. But they just you pay them, you set up your parameters, what you want, where you want it to some degree. And the providers can walk you through that. And then leads come in live to you. So you need to be prepared to get a text, an email, a phone call, and you or someone on your team have to jump on that immediately.
Yeah. I know we talked a little bit off camera a little bit too on some of that, with direct mail. I mean, we've done it for years here, and then I've, do the PPL and everything in between as well. in the past, like you mentioned with direct mail, like it is still direct to seller marketing. Let's be clear on that. It is. But you're waiting and hoping the phone rings, right? Whereas, you've literally on the PPL side of things, you've got somebody saying, ideally, because sometimes some of the common frustrations with PPL is they never answer the phone. Like that's probably the most common one, or they still want too much money, like stuff like that. But in general, these are people that are saying they want to sell their house, and they're raising their hand saying, I want to sell my house, and they're coming to you now. Is that correct?
That is right. And so I tell people, if you're going to do PPL, which I recommend right now to really do PPL, that you have to get on it quickly, because I tell people, like, what if you were calling to order a pizza and you called Pizza Hut and they didn't answer? Are you going to wait for Pizza Hut to call you back? Or are you just going to call Domino's and everybody else until you get someone on the phone to take your order?
Right.
And so you really gotta act fast on PPL leads.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, there's platforms out there, but it's how quickly can you get to that person, right, to stop them from going somewhere else. I think that's, yeah, we teach the same thing. So it's working. You got other people doing that. Like, do you have any like ballpark me? I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, and if you don't, that's okay. Data points as far as like how many, like, as I know with direct mail, right? It's typically about a 1% response rate, or what it's been. Maybe it's less than that now, right? How many people is it per paper lead to maybe a deal or, contract or whatever?
So if you're brand new in this, and especially if you're not getting mentorship, and it also depends on the market, because if you're in Phoenix, Arizona, or
Yeah.
Houston, Texas, it's going to be way more competitive than some other markets. But if you take 20 calls and get a contract and you're brand new with no mentorship, that's okay. 1 in 14, 1 in 15 leads, that's good. When you get up into the pro level game, like our Fred Brett here, and depends on the market you're in, and I've talked to some other people like RJ Bates, their teams can convert like 1 in 6, 1 in 7, 1 in 8
Yeah.
of those leads. What have you seen, Brett?
That's pretty spot on. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the type of lead, locations, things like that. I think in the competitive spaces, that's probably that 1 in 15 comes in, one in, if you're experienced, that is, right. But some of the tertiary markets, things like that, like maybe I'm the only 1 or 2 people that are around, so that's where you can get that 1 in 6 and 1 in 7 kind of idea from. But yeah, I'm right there with you on that. I'm just wondering what, in your experience, what are you seeing out there? Because I can see what I see, but it's really cool to talk to other investors in different parts of the country. Like, yeah, this is what we're seeing in regards to that. So, yeah, I mean, and PPL's been around for a little while, but I feel like it's, as things are, it's like any kind of marketing. It's ever changing. It's ever flowing. Where do you see it going as far as PPL goes? So, like, what's your take on that?
So I think they're getting better at what they do. I think they're going to stay ahead of regulation. So I don't really know how to project out PPL, because we don't know what changes might come down the pipe. But
Sure.
I know several times we kind of gotten some doomsday warning about regulation changes and how it's going to kill our industry.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Like nothing.
Right.
Another form gets filled out, which the PPL provider hands you. So I think of what I did in the past, and there was like a 7-8 year time frame where direct mail was it. That was the thing, and it worked great. So I think PPL really turned on last year, and I have no reason to think that for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, that's going to be the way to go.
And what about, all right, so I mean, I think everybody's listening, if you're, unsure, because I know a lot of people will hire like let me ask you this question, and I have vetted this out too. I'm just PPC, okay, works. They all work. Why not go the PPC route and hire an agency to just run PPC for you?
So admittedly, I don't know enough about PPC that I might know about PPL, but in my world, time is money. PPC is a business in its own. It's its own thing you have to learn. Yeah, you can hire agencies to do it, but I really look at PPC as more of you sending out direct mail, and then PPL is like the fish is on the hook. We're going to hand it to you.
So
And
it's on the time cycle.
yeah, right, on the time cycle. Yeah, because
Okay.
when I started direct mail, it could take 6 months for you to get a good lead when you're
Sure.
first starting. And
Dude,
so,
I remember I got a call 2 years after I sent out a piece of direct mail one time.
right,
2
yeah.
years. I was like, this is what? Just what? You know, this is crazy. Yeah, it happens. Tell me, all right, so we talked a little bit on the marketing side. Michael, what's the future for you and your business? What does that look like?
So single family is great. I'm always looking at single family deals. And if you've got a single family deal in the Houston area you want me to take a look at, you can message me on Instagram at Michael B Someone. And I also give out my phone number because I haven't regretted this yet. So I'm going to give out my phone number and see how that works. But it's 832-301-9672. If you have any questions or if you have a deal or something, text me there. Don't call me. I get 1,000 spam
Yep.
messages a day. Please text me or message me on IG. But I have started to go through mentorship. So several phases of my life, I've hired mentors. And uh, one mentor is never going to get you to where you want to go. What happens in your business is you hit plateaus and you've got to go to the next level through networking, masterminds, mentorship. And so I started doing multifamily mentorship. And that's really interesting to me. So I've got some certifications from the National Apartment Association, and I've got a bunch of private lenders who've lent me money in the past. And I've said, hey, do you want to go from do you want to be upgraded from investing in debt to investing in equity and have an equity position where your shares appreciate and everything? And so I've got private lenders that are on board with this, and so I've been underwriting and going through mentorship for small multifamily. I haven't bought anything yet, and the market for multifamily where I live has been a little tough, but that just means that there's good deals right around the corner. So that's kind of what I'm targeting. So but single family, still doing it.
Yeah.
Single family, like doing single family doesn't stop you from doing multifamily. In fact, single family is just really, really simple
Another
to
vehicle.
me. Yeah. Yeah. And so more single family and pursuing multifamily.
That's really cool. And it's just fun to we only just met, right? But being able to follow, we talk pre-show now during the show and following along the journey and the path of the life of an investor of what, how it changes. Because I don't know you, Michael, but I can almost guarantee you in 2018 when you bought that first house that you house hacked, fast forward to 2025 and you're like, yeah, I'm looking at getting into multifamily, got the certifications, do this. And like the evolution of what happens is super, like when you look back at it, it's like, man, I've really come from something and I'm working towards that's really cool to look back at,
Yeah. Yeah. We raised my mentor called it raising your financial thermostat. And so when a newbie's just getting going, they couldn't imagine owning an apartment complex.
no way. And
They're
how
not even
could you,
sure if they can
right?
buy a house,
Yeah. And how could you until you go through? And and that's what's so fun to talk about too, is looking at the future, and going, man, and here's what I look at when I talk to them, you're looking at the future and I haven't done that deal. I know I'm going to, but I can almost promise if you don't quit, that is, you're going to go look back in another 5-6 years and go, the next thing is this, or maybe sooner. Right. And I could have never even thought about that next thing because you're right now it's the multifam, right? In a handful of years, you're looking back man, I remember when that was the mountain to climb. And now you're
That's
looking at
right.
new mountains, It's
Yeah.
really cool. I love that about real estate too. It's never, I mean, I talked to a gentleman last week, 55 years been in the real estate business. And
Whoa.
yeah, I'll forget more than you learn, right? Like that kind of thing. And you're like, man, but even him saying, I'm still learning real estate, which is daunting, but exciting. That's the power that we have in this space. So yeah, man, it's been really cool talking with you. I know guys, Michael gave out his number. Again, talking to him pre-show, I know he's a wealth of information, wants to help, wants to serve, wants to be there, for you guys, especially if you're in that Houston area, guys listening. It's really great to connect with somebody of like mind, so, any last, if you could leave, the audience maybe with one or two things, give it Maybe it's an experience thing you've walked through, something like, give us some, like what kind of something maybe stuck with you that you kind of hang on to?
Never stop reading, never
Yeah.
stop networking. If you don't have at least one networking event on your calendar each week, you're missing out, especially for newer people. And then when you get busy in the business, don't take away that time to read. Don't take away that time to network, because the world around you is changing. So you can't do the same thing forever. And I forgot to mention to you, I also have a
Yeah.
podcast, the
Yes.
Be Someone podcast with Michael Hoang on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. And then I also have a free Facebook group. You can find the link to that in the description on my Instagram or my Facebook. But I would tell someone new who's just starting with it, man, it's so cliche, because I heard it all the time when I first got started. I didn't understand it until it happened, but your network is your net worth.
Yeah. Man, that's amazing. Guys, seriously, go follow Michael. Go to the Be Someone podcast. Follow, like, subscribe, guys, all the things. And he's got a lot to share, so I encourage you guys to go back, listen to him, follow along. And Michael, man, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Thanks for bringing such value to our audience today. And guys, we'll talk to you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Brett.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.